Throughout the year, we've been looking at a lot of resources and recommendations from the CDC, the state health department, our local health departments, reading the research, reading the studies, listening to our local health experts, and more importantly, looking at our own local data. And then the most important piece recently is we've continued to keep an eye on those school districts in the country and in our state that have been full in to see how they're operating and see how COVID and the pandemic has impacted those schools. And over the last several months, as we've looked at those schools, they've become lived examples of how we can make this work. And so the combination of all those resources really compiled to support our decision to move forward with all students back on March 8th. As always, we're going to continue with mitigation strategies that we know work, with physical distancing, keeping buildings sanitized and clean on a regular schedule, wearing masks appropriately at all times. All of those factors still play into it. But when it comes to specifically, let's take classrooms, for example, we are working with our classroom teachers to arrange furniture in those classrooms so that we can maximize physical distancing with an expectation that at least 3 feet between students is maintained as physical distancing in classrooms while they have their masks on. In the cafeteria, it's the same. We have worked with our buildings to find ways to maximize physical distancing in those eating spaces because we know the kids have to have their masks off. We're providing transparent barriers to put between students while they're eating lunch. And we're maintaining the same standard that at least 3 feet is between students with a barrier and maximizing that. And many of our buildings have their spaces set up to be more than 3 feet between students while they eat. So that's another important space. And then the third one is in terms of transportation. And we've continued with our mitigation strategies. We maintain the seat behind the driver so that we don't have close contact for drivers, because if we don't have enough drivers, we can't get our kids to school. And in all those spaces to date, as we look at our data, these have not been places where we've had problems with actual spread of the virus. Our mitigation strategies have been working. The similar standards in school districts that are operating full in have worked well, and we think we can do similar here in Westerville. We would encourage our students and our families and our staff to continue self-monitoring for symptoms, particularly if you've not been vaccinated. Take your temperature, wash your hands. If you're not feeling well, don't come to school, don't come to work, and take those necessary steps to determine if you might have tested positive for COVID. We're going to continue our strategies of cleaning and sanitizing throughout the buildings on a regular schedule. We're going to continue encouraging our students and our staff to maintain those same standards of health and safety for themselves as individuals. And we ask that the community as a whole, we are bringing our students back full time, and we need to do so in as safe as possible so we're not contributing to community spread and that our schools are not subject to community spread. So we're asked that everybody do what we know is necessary in order to prevent the spread of the virus and continue bringing our students back safe and healthy. There's been a lot of questions about ventilation systems in our schools, and I can assure our community that our schools, all of our schools, meet current standards for school ventilation. Of course, that isn't necessarily aligned with the gold standard for ventilation that some people would like to see in our schools. But again, we've had low transmission of the COVID virus in our schools overall. But we do maintain our filters in our current system, and we've increased the amount of fresh air coming in from outside into our buildings, which we can increase even more as warm weather comes. We can open windows in our buses, and we'll encourage our schools and our teachers to use the outdoors as we get warmer and nicer weather. It's a great learning space, it's a great eating space, so we'll continue to look forward to opportunities to keep our kids safe. Our expectations of student staff, first and foremost, wear those masks appropriately. You know how to do that. And two, physically distance from each other to the greatest extent possible, keeping in mind that we're trying to keep each other safe while we're at school, getting the work of school done. So wash your hands, maintain those masks appropriately, keep physical distancing to the greatest extent possible, and we can move forward safely with school. We're also excited to know that all of our staff have been offered the opportunity for the vaccine. We end that this week. We also have a second opportunity coming for those staff members who weren't able to participate in the first round. So we're going to continue providing that opportunity for our staff so that they can be vaccinated and be safe in our schools. So we look forward to continued progress on vaccines for children, vaccines for our community as we move forward, and we look forward to ending the school year together back in our buildings.